Hi, everyone. Thanks for hanging around. Nice to see all of you and nice to meet all of you in person. This is going to be fun. My name is Jill Gorman. As for introduced, I am also with Samsung. A lot of Samsung representation here today. Love to see it. Hi, Olga. See you, girl. Yeah. I'm over the consumer experience strategy for the North American market, and I'm excited to have a panel with me today of various industries. Like this is a great, well-rounded group of folks, and so what I'd love to do first is have everyone introduce themselves, talk about your role, right? I know some of us are newer in role, some of us are working on new things, and then I'd love for you to talk about who is your consumer, right? And what does consumer storytelling mean uniquely to you? Okay, Jeff, don't screw this up.
I'll try not to. Thanks, Jill. Well, I'm Jeff. I don't work at Samsung. I'm the head of advertising sales at AdMarketplace. We do work with Samsung, so there's a positive there. AdMarketplace, what we do, we're the largest monetization partner of privacy browsers and buy now, pay later apps. We really work on the search side, so we're a nice alternative to advertisers who run traditional search engines like Google and Bing. We come in as an alternative to that. Is that all I'm supposed to answer right now? Or am I supposed to answer about the search journey?
I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, great.
Let's keep it moving.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, I'm Steve Cox, CEO of Ryff. Ryff's a startup that is focused on in-scene advertisement. So this is virtual product placement type ad units. And we can put brands inside the story. An example of this would be we have a deal with Paramount where they have a new show coming out on the 19th, The Road, Keith Urban and Blake Shelton. And if you look for the brand decked in that show, that is done virtually, even though it'll look like it was naturally put in there when it was shot. This is a way that we can give experiences to consumers, meaning the viewer, that is more specific to them, more personalized. It also gives the brand the ability to get more targeted with the consumer on a per stream basis, because we can do product placements on a per stream basis instead of having to do it a year ahead of time when the show is shot. And it also gives customization to the content owner. The production company, whoever it is that owns that piece of content, now they can monetize at a more personalized way. So that is how Ryff is really kind of focusing on the consumer space.
I'm Julie Keating. I'm head of brand and agency development at Sojern. And what Sojern is what we've built is that we are all travel intent data. And we're getting billions of signals from airlines and hotels, OTAs. And with that, we're able to really understand the customer journey and the path to purchase in travel. So for us, traveler is our consumer, and people who are around travel as well. There's a lot of different ways that we can look at that. So there's a lot of storytelling to be done with that, and I'm excited to jump in, Jillian.
And I'm Jehan. I work for a company called Bilt, which if anyone pays rent, you probably have heard of us. We are a housing, payments, and loyalty platform. And within the company, my job is to build out an ecosystem of local merchants that want to engage with residents that have just moved in the neighborhood. So.
Very good. Okay, Jeff, I'll finally come back to you. It is your moment. Talk us through, I know you have some fun stuff that has been recently announced. Who knows what else you're cooking up. Talk to us about the end-to-end journey and what's on your radar and what are you working on currently?
Great, thanks, Jill. So at AdMarketplace, we tend to work with a lot of brands who really have a user that is much different than the user I'm in my past have worked with, right? I come from a side on really the publishing and direct sales teams. And the reason I actually came to AdMarketplace was the user journey has been changing rapidly. I think everybody in the digital ecosystem knows this. And probably I will talk about AI, because how could you not be on a panel and talk about AI these days? But what I've seen in my career and how the user journey has changed and why AdMarketplace is so relevant these days is the consumer wants to be touching brands in their own format, right? We talk a lot at AdMarketplace about native search. And what native search really means is you want to be able to have the user be able to find your product at the right place at the right time in what they're doing. For years, we've been all reliant on one product, Google, to be searching everything. And obviously, as time has gone on, that has changed dramatically. Either there's a huge push for privacy in younger people, as well as payment terms, right? And a lot of what we do is we work with buy now, pay later apps, which for myself, hadn't been a huge user of. When I came to realize what the younger kind of college students now are doing and how they're looking at finances, it's rapidly different, dramatically different than what we were looking at 20 years ago. I happen to have some teenagers in my life who don't ever consider the same financial options as I considered when I was their age. So following that consumer, following the journey, and of course then following it to the world of AI. At AdMarketplace, we've been working closely with browsers for years. It's kind of what we do outside of the traditional. We work with privacy browsers like Firefox and Opera. Last night, we had our event with Opera. I don't know if there's any gamers in the house, but Opera's been around for a very long time in the browser world, specializes in younger crowd and gaming. They have an AI browser called Aria. And we are going to be the first, we announced last night, we're going to be the monetization partner behind Aria. And really what that means is as the world monetizes search in a different way on AI, how do we put advertisers' links into that in an effective way to serve up advertising on a cost per click basis? In the same way kind of search has worked, but in a completely new way in the AI space. So we're really excited about the Opera launch. It's actually live now for anybody that uses Opera and Aria. You can see it actually active in there. But following that journey is, again, following the consumer to where they are. Searching and querying in AI browsers is much different than what it's always been, and we are on the pulse of how to reach them.
That's exciting. Kudos to you guys, and
Thank you.
congrats on the announcement.
Thank you.
I think we could all agree consumer-first based storytelling, right, very much can drive performance. Right? Should drive performance, whatever performance means to you. And so I'm kind of getting at the measurement angle here, you can tell, right? Because I think there's a lot of sometimes misconception of how does storytelling as a squishier topic, right, drive the right performance, right? And what are those metrics in question? And so, Jehan, I want to go to you because actually not that paying rent is not a sexy industry, right?
Well,
it's not a sexy industry historically. And so it sounds like you've been working on some really cool consumer-based storytelling and marketing, and I want you to share with the crew kind of what have you learned from that, right? What has resonated, and where are you going with it?
Totally. Well, we make rent fun, so if anyone's had rent day at Bilt, it's pretty cool. But I think there's two stories that might be helpful. So the first part is storytelling becomes a lot easier when it is rooted in the culture of the company, right? For us, Bilt was founded with a very simple premise, which was when people pay their rent, it did not count towards their credit score. It was incredibly hard for them to get their first home. And that journey for a lot of Americans was really hard to graduate from there, if ever. And so we really wanted to make that easier. So if you notice anything about Bilt, it kind of goes back to that thesis, that origination. And now we're at the point where we're starting to have a little bit of fun and experiment a bit with it. So recently, one of the, another important point, we shoot and do all of our creative in-house ourselves. So it helps having a creative team that are amazing with ideas. So one of them came up with the idea that, hey, maybe we should shoot our own, New Girls-like sitcom, very short form, minute and a half-ish, episodes of people that have just moved. So it's a few roommates that have just moved to New York City and are figuring out their first apartment together. But our approach was a bit different. It's not an ad of Bilt. You actually don't even see Bilt in the entire creative. Bilt is mentioned in the about section at the very bottom of the post. And we just were like, let us put one episode out and see what happens. And it took off. And so now it's becoming a part of our, storytelling toolkit with especially people that are first-time renters, first-time moving into a larger city, this resonates a lot. So I think to your question, A, it's got to be deeply rooted in the culture, and if that's the case, the entire business's performance can be tied back to kind of just how stories are told.
Love that. Thank you. Relevancy. So, right, it's clear that you hit a relevant stride with your consumer and hopefully new consumers, right?
Yeah.
You drove awareness for your brand, but in a way that felt really authentic. And so that's what it's all about, right? And so I'd love to hit on relevancy because I think each of us, hopefully, right, bring a unique point of view as to what does that need to mean, not just what should it mean, right? But what do we all need to do as leaders and as marketers and as owners of companies to drive relevancy, because it cannot be just a short-term goal, right, or vision. It has to be longer term. So I'd love to touch on what does relevancy mean to you and how are you thinking about it? Steve, you're up.
Yeah. So in our space, relevancy is about getting the right product in front of the right customer that's going to resonate with. And we're predominantly a tech platform, and so we're making investments in AI that can scan a piece of content and understand what's happening in the screen, in that frame of video, so that we can get a piece of inventory out to a brand and say, here is a setting, it's a table, and there's people around it, and they're talking about family. But we need to know whether or not are they eating breakfast, because you don't want to put a bottle of Bailey's, on the table at breakfast, or so you got to make sure you understand the contextuality. And so when we understand that and we understand all the brand safety, we can now put that out there in the market for a sponsorship or even a programmatic delivery of something into in the scene, where the viewer. You could be two viewers sitting in the same room, one watching TV, one on your phone, hit play for the exact same show, and simultaneously see two different things. Maybe it's breakfast, and one of them sees a brand of OJ, and another one sees a brand of cranberry juice. So we have that capability now to be highly specific, highly authentic to the customer based on what we know about them, what they like and dislike. And so this type of relevancy is kind of where AI is taking the industry. We have the ability to not just do the shotgun blast that the traditional 30-second ad was, where, hey, 40% of the audience was this demographic, so we'll sell the entire inventory around that demographic. Now we can sell on a per viewer basis and really make things relevant to people. And the data that we've had, and today we've been doing this now for a couple of years, shows that when you do this more authentic, more relevant integration, you get much better top of funnel, mid funnel results than you do if you do the traditional 30-second ad or those types of ad units that aren't necessarily focused on the authenticity of the individual viewer. So I think this is where we're going to see, not just us, but many people in the industry start doing this and having the ability to really make this more customized and more relevant to viewers and what they want to do. And one of the main things that we see is viewers just don't like ad breaks, right? An ad break comes on, they pick up their phone, they leave the room or whatever. But if you're doing something where you're integrating an ad unit that's into the stream, like a virtual product placement or a pause ad or something like that, it's much more relevant to the viewer because they're going to see it now and they know that it's going to be something that they're interested in. And so that's where I really see things going.
Okay, marketplace. So when I was with Target and we were scaling our marketplace, relevancy, and this was a few years ago, right? Relevancy was the priority, right? And it was also the hardest thing to accomplish within a marketplace setting. I'm sure many of us have been through something similar. So I'd love to hear your take from a relevancy angle, because I personally just find it really fascinating and very hard as hell.
I think we spend an inordinate time at AdMarketplace talking about ad relevancy, right? And it's user relevancy. At the end of the day, whoever you use to pay your bills or to buy stuff, you want them to secretly kind of know about what you want when you want it, right? So a lot of it is targeting at the right time, displaying your units at the right pace for the buyer, right? And I think we work with a lot of partners like Klarna and Affirm. brands that do millions and millions of transactions a day. So we have a ton of data to be able to read that, right? Much like you guys did at Roundel years ago, right? And it's how do you make sure that you're always serving the user is really what we focus on. At the end of the day for us, much like how we all are interacting with these, agentic AI now, it's personalized, right? So how do you really do mass advertising at a personalized level and have that ad relevancy always be showing up? We work across a lot of partners at AdMarketplace because of that. We're trying to ensure that we are delivering for the advertiser the right user at the right place, and that is tricky, right? I think that is, as we get into this AI world and we're starting to work with partners that we have been, that's really something that we're like doing in millisecond time now, which is something that I think when you're thinking about how to decision make, for those who work in programmatic, I used to spend many years in that as well. Real-time bidding is now in a totally different way, and I think, Steve kind of hits on this a little bit too. It's like there's no more relevance than real-time content, right? And then we talk about a lot of what we talk about is natively as well. How is that going to work in a native feel so it doesn't feel like advertising? It feels like content, but you're getting that in a way that's relevant on a constant, every second basis.
There's an argument to be made, and tell me what y'all think, right? That if you are not relevant, you lose authenticity really quickly.
Sure.
Right? And that's a very slippery slope. And so that's where, again, Marketplace comes to mind for me, because it's a challenging spot to be in. So Julie, you're in hospitality, another sexy industry. Talk to us about relevancy and what the consumer-based strategies are that you're working on.
Yeah. So we work in data. And so we are seeing all the different data from travel, different points. I said billions of different points that are coming in on a daily basis or hourly basis. So when we're working with clients and we're working in this space, travel isn't just buying a flight. It is really buying a memory or a chance of a memory. So people, what we're seeing is they might be searching and we have data points of 700 different data points of how someone is across the journey. So what we need to do is really understand where they are in their journey in order to make sure that we're hitting them at the right part. So we are part of their experience and not an advertisement. So if someone is looking at dreaming phase, that we only focus on inspiration. If they're looking at planning, that we're helping guide them with how to plan. And if they're looking at booking, we're reassuring them that they're getting a great deal and that the choice that they made is good. And it doesn't stop after that. When they've actually gone on a journey or done on an experience, that's where you build loyalty, and that's where you build where someone's going to be on wherever they are on their vacation. Where do experiences come? How do you begin to enhance that part? So there's so many different parts of that within that customer journey that's fun for us to be able to then take our data, begin to look at that and understand where they are and be part of that journey and help move them along to a point where it is not seen as advertising and it is really seen part of the journey and really part of the process. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so tying relevancy, measurement, right? Some of the themes, and I love that you brought up loyalty, right? We'd be remiss not to talk about loyalty. When we think about how to invest, where to invest, why to invest, I'd love each of you, because we did talk about this on the call, and I was fascinated as to, because of your unique places that you sit, what you're thinking, right? And I mean financial investment, right? But I mean brand equity, right? Where are you investing and having your business and your priorities show up externally? I'd love for each of you to walk the crowd through what you're thinking. Jeff?
Sure. I mean, I hit on some of this already, but obviously, we live in the search space. And for myself, who did not work in search, I suddenly found myself in my career talking more about this consumer journey and the search journey than ever before, right? So where AdMarketplace lives is in that ecosystem, right? How is search changing now more than ever? I think, if you read the stats and you talk about ChatGPT, they went from 0 to 1 million users in like a week, and to now, 1 billion users or 100 million, some of them crazy numbers that they throw out. The growth is exponential, right? For us, it's how do you actually, though, do commerce inside of AI? And we're spending an exorbitant amount of of our resources and build out of to make that very, very wide open space feel a little bit more digestible for advertisers moving forward. How do we make it so advertisers can test and learn in a format that doesn't feel overwhelming, that everybody else is kind of talking about? We were joking around backstage about every single conference that we go to these days has, the future of AI. And I think I've been to probably a dozen of those over the last 6 to 9 months. And I think what we do know is that we know nothing, but we're all testing and learning and finding out a lot of amazing stuff, finding out some stuff that we actually should be talking about that's not as amazing as some of us thought it might be. But I do think commerce and search and the internet, right, as we talk about it, what it's going to be in these days. For those of you who are around for the first kind of browser wars, right? We talked about this last night. Like, I don't know if anybody remembers Netscape and Internet Explorer used to be kind of the two brands that before Google existed, right? We're now in this time of a space and everybody is investing in how that consumer journey is now going to look.
Who wins the browser war in your?
I don't make an opinion on that
You're
one.
giving Netscape.
Netscape's got it. Yeah, they got it locked down.
Steve.
Yeah, as I mentioned, we're kind of have three consumers here, right? The viewer, the ad brand, and the content owner of the platform. And while they have tension, they all kind of want different things. There's a couple of things that they all need. They want something that's relevant. They want something fast. And so those are kind of the areas that we're focused on. I talked about how we're looking at relevancy in terms of scene understanding that tells us what is happening in a piece of video, and then turning that into metadata that we can give systems to and tools to ads so that they can figure out what works for them, what fits their campaign, and doing this in a highly automated way. But the other thing is around speed. Once they find that show and the series of placements that they want to do across multiple shows, they give us the creative, and then we have systems, agentic AI systems that will take that, put it into all the locations that they've selected, automatically adjust the lighting and the color, the composition and rotoscoping and this stuff, so that it looks like it was placed there authentically, when the show was shot. And so what used to be a post-production shot that would take days or weeks to do, we can do in seconds or hours. I mean, seconds if it's just a brand play like a billboard or something like that, a banner type of ad that's integrated in. But then we can do larger things. We just closed a deal where we're actually inserting a helicopter. An actual helicopter manufacturer wants to have their helicopter scene as part of their brand marketing. And so we're able to insert that into several scenes in an upcoming Yellowstone episode. So all of these types of capabilities where we're automating things that used to take humans long stretches of time to do now can be done in near real time, or in much, much faster times. If it's a highly complex shot that used to take weeks, we can do it in a day now. And then the final thing is delivery. All of this stuff, if you wanted to do anything in scene in a theatrical movie, you had to do it 1 to 2 years ahead of time. If it were a TV series, it was probably 6 months ahead of time. Now we can deliver it after the person hits play. So you can sit down and hit play on Netflix, and in that 1 second that takes the video to load, we can do an open RTB programmatic bid, get the creative uploaded. Agentic AI does all that work and delivers it. And as far as the viewer, the consumer knows they thought it was in real time. It took us a couple of seconds, but that's kind of the future that I see with in-scene advertising, that we can do this and so quickly. That is going to be very powerful for brands to reach the consumers, and the consumers are going to feel much more satisfied about this than they are about an ad break that takes them out of the experience.
You should have seen, Steve, a few of us were kind of like, as you were talking, like,
it's
that's
cool.
Really
it's
cool.
cool and scary
That's
at the
really
same
cool.
time, right? So.
And kudos on Yellowstone. That's
it's our partnership with Paramount, that they have a couple of Yellowstone spin-offs that come out in 2026. So.
They didn't pay you to say that either. Right?
Yeah.
Very cool. Julie.
So on the investments, I'm going to go in a different direction, actually. I'm not going to even say AI, even though I just said it. One of the things that we're investing in and what keeps us different is that we're looking at insights. And so we work quite a bit with an economist. And with that economist, what we found is that travel is the most, it is the closest tie to the economy in general, and seeing the fast forwarding and seeing. So we're seeing 3 to 6 months out on the economy. And what that tells us is what does the demand look like, especially for a lot of our destination business, where people are coming in and, if it's Aruba or somewhere else, being like, we're not seeing demand. We're seeing that even before they're not seeing that, because we really understand this economic trends. So we're spending a lot of time understanding consumer behavior, the economy, how it's tying in with how we are working, and helping our clients be ahead of what's happening in the travel space. And so also those insights really begin to help us begin to figure out where people are going or what's happening. So we just did a big research on Q4 and holiday travel and what people are doing. And people would say here today probably that travel's down, but in reality travel is actually up this year, 5% in this space. But with that, travel's different. They're not traveling in the same way. They're not doing the big post-COVID big trips anymore. They're really focused on economy and doing other things differently, and Americans are staying in America. International isn't here. So having these consumer insights, looking at the economy, has been a really interesting way for us to stay ahead of trends and being able to help on this customer journey and be able to do that. We're seeing, cruising. I don't think there's any cruise people in here, but it's up 55% since 2019. And people want that because they know what they're getting. They know that if they unpack, they pay their bill, and they know exactly what they're going to be paying. So there's a lot of different ways to look at that. So we use the data to understand, we're getting the signals, tying that in with economists and also consumer insights to really give a big picture of what that looks like to help our businesses grow in travel and also travel adjacent.
That cruise stat.
It's shocking. Like people
Cruises are scary. I don't know who these people are. Any cruise folks?
Don't be shy.
You mentioned there are no cruise people, but I think that you might be 55% up. There's some cruise people somewhere. I don't know where they are.
Yeah, it's great.
It's good. God bless. Last but not least.
Well, we live in the physical commerce world, so I'll maybe take a very, very hyper-local example for a second. When you move into your new apartment, your new building, how does a local restaurant that's down the block introduce their business to the person that just moved in? Today, most likely, it is one of the most inefficient methods, which if anyone's gotten the stack of flyers below the door, by the mailroom, it is not as efficient as it could be. And our approach is not just digitizing that, but actually curating a very, very relevant experience for our residents and the local merchant. So when you move in one of our buildings, we can run campaigns where dine at one of our local restaurants down the street, your first round of drinks are on us. Complimentary. It's not a coupon, it's nothing. It is directly interjected into the point of sale so that while you're sitting at the table, you get a complimentary round of drinks. Thanks from the restaurant. Thanks for moving in the neighborhood. So that's the world we live in, and I think it's a lot easier to make the argument on more efficient investing in physical commerce, compared to a lot of digital spaces where it's quite mature in some ways.
Yeah, that's a cool example, the free drinks. I might start paying rent arbitrarily somewhere else and get these perks.
I got a few places.
For no reason whatsoever. Okay, so lightning round, we have less than 1 minute. You all work with incredible brands, right? And I've appreciated each of you kind of talking about either your past experience, current partnerships, recently unlocked. Steve is a Yellowstone guy, I love that for him. What does it mean to be a winning brand right now, right? Like, why would you work with a certain brand and what have they done to excel in that way? So give us an adjective or two. I'm going to go down the line.
I think to hit on our topic, you have to be talking to the user in the right ways. So is it hitting them in all places, so being relevant to their lives throughout the day?
Steve.
Yeah, I would say that the brands that are thinking about the individual consumer and how they can get in front of them and make them recognize their product. I mean, just putting something on a table is not necessarily enough to really get them get the viewer to understand it, right? What's the entire campaign look like across maybe the 10 episodes or throughout the movie that we're doing, and understanding how the campaigns come together is really the ones that we have the best success with.
I would say the best partnerships we have is if our values are aligned. That's really important. So it's aligning on values and also curiosity, like just pushing the envelope.
As a consumer, brand that makes my life easier, better, more rewarding, I will take that all day. So
Free drinks.
that's right.
Free drinks. Okay, thank you, everyone. I think our time is up. Very good.